Hey guys, I'm back with another video and this one is about books. In this episode of my vlog, I will be starting a book reviewing series where I review a book I read while I annotated. If you love books and annotations as well as romanticizing life and aesthetic vibes, this video is for you. Today's pick for annotating and reviewing is Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. Now, these are the points that I will review today and talk about in general, and I will rate the book after out of 5. And before I start, I would like to point out that what I say in this video is purely my opinion and might disagree with your opinion. Liking literature is purely based on preference. What I like could be something you dislike, and what I hate could be something you swear by. For those who read this book and loved it, you might not like my book review. I generally love reading heavier books with more detailed world building. Think The Remnant Chronicles or The Last Namsara or Carve the Mark. So if this book review offends you, kindly don't watch. If you want to hear an honest opinion from a bookworm who loves reading books with substance, you are welcome to the rest of the video. So, enjoy. Today's pick for annotating and reviewing is Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. It follows a female pirate named Alosa, whose mission is to sneak onto another pirate ship to find and steal a treasure map. She allows herself to be captured and uses the opportunity to search the ship every night. It is an enemies to lovers pirate story that focuses on Alosa's stealth mission and unfolds her past and secrets. This book had several tropes in it that could be considered trendy nowadays. There was an enemies to lovers between our main character and the obvious hot and brooding love interest. I wouldn't say it was a perfect execution of the trope because it was bordering on insta-love. The main character instantly acknowledged the attractiveness of Raiden, and there wasn't a slow development of the relationship from hateful enemies to passionate lovers. There were trust issues and internal conflict between liking each other and focusing on their goals. Maybe it felt less genuine at times too. There was a lot of flirting and things seemed superficial until the plot twist in the end. All in all, it was a bit cliche at times. Another trope was the one-bed trope. That was a bit obvious and silly, really. If you hated someone or you were too proud to admit your feelings towards them, you would never just go and share their bed. So here is where I felt like Alosa could be a bit hypocritical, two-faced maybe. She was not honest with herself or with the reader probably. The way she was written, it felt forced. Like that's what the writer wanted her character to do, even if it didn't seem to be her nature. The final trope I'll mention is the "who did this to you" trope. Raiden sees Alosa's scars and asks the question. It felt a bit unrealistic. Either you hate each other and ask that begrudgingly, or you are warming up to each other, ask that softly, the way it was in the book, and remain soft, at least internally, for the rest of the book. Because it got all sentimental, and then they were back to being cold towards each other. It just felt like maybe we as readers could have used a little bit more information, or perhaps a slow-growing trust as they learned each other's natures. Or not. Have them continue distrusting each other and don't give us the emotional moment that would make us crave more, you know? So yeah, I had a bit of difficulty enjoying these parts, but I had even more difficulty with the themes. There are some very distinct themes in this book, such as feminism, but I didn't like the way it was done. There was hate on men in the book, and I know this might piss so many women off, but I think it is just as bad as misogyny. Alosa believed she was better than others just because she was a woman. On the other hand, all but maybe 2 men in the whole story only cared about pleasure, violence, and drink. There was an attempt to our main character, and another man enjoyed inflicting pain and suffering on others in general. All men thought with their anatomy, if you know what I mean, and women were the superior creatures. Pardon me if I feel like this narrative is overdone and stale at this point. It was very superficial and made me roll my eyes a lot. The story started out in a well-defined manner where there was intrigue and a character's goal. But then it quickly turned structureless and muddy, especially in the first half of the book. A lot of the events were repetitive, escapes that felt almost identical, and conversations as well as internal monologues that would go on and on about the same things. The story felt unplanned and mostly improvised, as if the writer created Alosa, our main character, and let her lead the story instead of the writer. I usually like stories that are generally fast-paced because they keep me turning the page, but in this case, in the case of this book, I felt like the pace was fast, but nothing new or interesting was happening. And at the same time, I felt like the story needed calm moments to let the reader breathe. There were times in the story when that almost happened, but it wasn't enough. I was out of breath and I had to put the book down to get it instead of continuing. The story lacked excitement. We read pirate stories because we want to see pirates doing fun things like plotting, stealing, unaliving, and fighting. The MC kept telling the reader how cool she is, but I honestly haven't seen much. The telling was so prominent as opposed to the showing in the story. The book lacked charisma, if that makes any sense. Also, so much of it was so sexist, it drove me nuts. The dialogue had lines that went, "You're a woman, act like it." Like what? And then the response would be, "I'm not a lady, I'm a pirate." Who said you can't be both? Elizabeth Swann would be so disappointed. It just didn't click for me. It didn't feel realistic or piratey at all. It was just mushy and slimy most of the time. And don't get me started on the ending. The plot twist did disorient me a lot. It was really meh. So our main character is Alosa. She is a pirate on a pirate ship, and she is the daughter of the Pirate King. So she is a princess. Alosa despises softness and perceives it as a weakness, which was my first red flag for her. She is very skilled and strong, and she has a secret. She can use siren magic. But she hates it. She hates it when she uses her magic because it is very focused on femininity, seduction, and so on. But she won't shut up about how much more skilled she is and how much stronger she is from the other men on the ship. Her personality felt very muddy throughout the book, very arrogant and narcissistic. It was only in the end that I felt like she has some redeeming qualities when I saw what she was like leading her own pirate ship. There were moments throughout the book, especially at the very start, when she exhibited good qualities like protecting her crew. I really liked that, but I didn't get much of it throughout the book because she was mostly in her prison cell just bickering with the other pirates. So I didn't really get the feel of her good side much. I felt like she was better when she was around her crew. and I look forward to reading more about that in the second book. But maybe to me the problem was that she kept saying she's so badass, but I didn't see much of that throughout the story, so I thought it was empty talk. She didn't feel like a strong female character, meaning she lacked depth and nuance. Having a strong female character means to write a female with a clear and well-defined personality, not to write a woman with muscle and no emotion whatsoever. All in all, she has potential after what I saw after the plot twist. Maybe the problem was the setting as well. I might have needed to see her do something meaningful and heroic, not sulk around the ship, flirting with Raiden and searching for something. It was not as intriguing and suspenseful as the writer might have meant it to be. Most characters were superficial. The love interest, Raiden, lacked spine and personality. His sole purpose, it seemed, was to brood and look sexy for the main character. Draxon, who was the main antagonist throughout the whole story, was a despicable person, but he was an acceptable villain. The two characters I liked the most were Kieran and Enwin, especially Enwin. Now he is a very interesting character. You could see how layered he was, how smart. This character had a mind of his own. The problem that I noticed when I was reading the story was that the side characters felt like cardboard cutouts. They needed fleshing out, including Raiden and to a certain extent Alosa herself. She didn't feel realistic a lot of the time. Now I understand by now that maybe I'm not the target audience for this book, but I am a reader and a writer, and I can acknowledge the flaws and virtues of a story. It felt like it needed more work. The biggest reason I picked this book up was that the cover said that Alosa was a female version of Captain Jack Sparrow. She wasn't. She was too serious, cold, and rational to be Jack Sparrow. The vibe of piracy and ship sailing was lacking as well. It wasn't a swashbuckling adventure, but rather a stealth mission spent mostly in a prison cell below deck, away from the sea breeze and sea salt on the air and the scorching sun and the sense of adventure that being in the middle of the open sea brings. I didn't feel like I was on a ship. I was promised Jack Sparrow and a pirate adventure, but I don't feel like I got it. I might have also needed more calm moments on deck, in the sunlight, watching the waves or smelling the salty air. Maybe there was a problem with descriptions? I don't know. I couldn't always imagine the scene as well as I should have when reading a pirate story. There wasn't much sword fighting, no one yelled from the crow's nest, no one swung from the foremast. There were no sea shanties or jokes on deck whilst scrubbing the floors, and it was all very stale. The writing style was fairly easy to read and simple. There was lots of internal monologue, which I don't count as bad at all because we learned more about the character. There was lots of telling as opposed to showing, which did not help the imagination. It did not help the world building at all. But this would be an easy to read book for teenagers. It qualifies to be a beach read in its lightness, but the themes are a bit too heavy than what is expected in a beach read, which can be frustrating at times, I guess. I understand that this is a debut novel and that it is flawed, it is okay, and lots of debut novels are that way, but when you are looking for a book to read, you don't care about its order of publication as much as you would about the themes, tropes, plot, character, world building, whatever. This was an okay book in my eyes. I would recommend it to someone who wants a fun love-hate romance, someone who holds a grudge against men apparently, someone who likes the one-bed trope and the who did this to you trope. If you're looking for a swashbuckling adventure led by a female version of Captain Jack Sparrow, this is not it. The series has potential, and I would definitely read the second book in this duology. And now I know what to expect, and I know to read it when I'm craving something light, but also I won't be as frustrated by the angry themes. I can hope that the second book would have more adventure and more character growth and development, since we have already established them in book 1. I know I'm very critical, but I am also a writer and I like to analyze stuff in depth. So, I give this book 3 stars, and you are welcome to stick around and maybe you will see me review the second book as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, like and subscribe for more book-related content. And if you disagree with anything that I said, you are welcome to have a debate with me in the comment section.